Welcome to a wildcard episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, where we take a rare dive into the Marvel Universe. Yes, this is Ben, or Ben Banner, for this week. And with me, as usual, is my co-host.
I didn't even see that. It's Drew Hulk. I'm wearing green, too. This was not planned.
Wait, did you deliberately wear green for tonight? Or
No,
wow,
not
okay.
planned at all. I didn't even think about it.
By happenstance. So
Yes, indeed.
There's no Batman this week. Instead, we're tackling a character who's made her live-action debut and been discussed more around the internet these days than probably ever before, and that's She-Hulk. So, the Marvel show She-Hulk Attorney at Law premiered about a month ago now on Disney+, starring Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters and her alter ego, She-Hulk. But we also could have seen her in other iterations in the 90s, so we're going to be covering the many unsuccessful attempts at bringing She-Hulk to life. I say many, but it's really like 3. But still, with a lot of these Marvel projects, it took a long time for them to gestate until finally either we had some former version of it on like TV, or we got to finally see it brought to life for real with the MCU. So She-Hulk just happens to be one of those. And I believe you've said before on Twitter that this is your favorite female superhero, Andrew?
It could be. I mean, I don't know.
At least.
I don't know why. It's just kind of you just vibe with a certain character. I'm not sure. I know Wonder Woman is the most iconic one.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up more with Jean Grey. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's either her or maybe Jean Grey. I'm not sure.
I think
she's up there. She's definitely way up there for me.
There's something cool about what this is in the Wizard and Bruiser episode that you recommended to me, where they talk about how like she's not weighed down by the burden of having superpowers like a lot of other characters, especially her cousin. Whereas just like, oh no, this is fun. This is a fun aspect to it, even though earlier on in the very early comics, I'm actually reading some of the early issues where I'm just like, oh, this is a lot darker than what I was expecting, because it needed to get to sort of an evolution before John Byrne did the whole like more comedic take on She-Hulk in '89. So I guess for a quick history, for those who might not know, She-Hulk was created out of very interesting circumstances, and that's because around the 80s, the Hulk was probably one of the more successful live-action Marvel translations ever, because of the fact that we had the Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno Hulk television series with Bill Bixby as Dr. David Banner, because they didn't like the name Bruce, because they thought the name Bruce was too gay.
They thought the name Bruce was gay, didn't they? Didn't we just have Bruce Wayne 10 years before that?
Yeah,
on
I know,
Adam West. Like, what? I don't get this.
It's a different creative team. But
by the way, Lou Ferrigno's traps are ridiculous in this fucking picture. This is a monster, dude.
Yeah. No, he's perfectly cast in this. This show not only had a live-action Hulk, but also started introducing other Marvel characters in their different TV movies. We had Eric Allen Kramer as Thor and Rex Smith as Daredevil, who originated the Black Ninja-type look that later ended up in the Frank Miller Man Without Fear comic, which then, of course, carries over most famously with Charlie Cox's Daredevil in the first and third season of that show. So that kind of paved the way, but the man behind this version of the Hulk was a man named Kenneth Johnson, who had done The $6 Million Man, but that had a female-led spin-off, which was Bionic Woman, which we actually had a reference to a couple months ago when we had Henry Kingi on here from Batman Returns, because Henry, for those who don't know, is the ex-husband to the Bionic Woman herself, Lindsay Wagner, which I think you pointed out to me when we were sort of doing the research for that episode. I'm like, that's insane.
Going through their trivia page on IMDb.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
So we kind of have a prior connection to this. But Marvel sees, okay, guy who did $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman, he's now doing Incredible Hulk. Oh shit, he's probably going to do another female-led spin-off. There are rumors that the plan, and this is unsubstantiated, I couldn't find how true this was, but the plan might have been for Dr. David Banner to give his blood at one point to his sister, Helen, and that would turn her into a She-Hulk for the 5th season. But whatever the case was, seems to be true is that Marvel was afraid that if Kenneth Johnson was going to do his spin-off, that Johnson would have the rights to this She-Hulk type character rather than them. So they wanted to beat him to the punch and dictated that there needed to be a She-Hulk in the comics. And so Stan Lee himself ended up co-creating this in 1980 in The Savage She-Hulk #1 with him and John Buscema. Though the next issue's writing gets taken over by David Anthony Kraft, who would
David Alan Greer
would end up taking over She-Hulk, and that's how this ended up happening.
That's how this happened. So there we go.
Yeah, David Anthony Kraft, who basically the legend goes is that he hated the idea of a She-Hulk, so he wanted to take it over so that no one else would be able to fuck it up. He wanted to be able to say, like, okay, let's make this its own thing and not just, Bruce Banner in a skirt type of thing.
Stan Lee hated, right? Is that what you said?
David Anthony Kraft, but I think also Stan Lee might have hated the idea of doing this simply because of the fact that apparently he was not a big fan of these like legacy spin-off type characters, but he was kind of given the go-ahead or the dictation to do this, and it was just like, all right, fuck it. She's the cousin and she gets a blood transfusion and that's about it. So if you have a Kindle, they're actually available for free on Prime Reading. If you have that with Amazon Prime. So check it out, the original run, the first 14 issues on Kindle. They're a lot darker in tone than what She-Hulk's currently known for. I was surprised. There's a whole thing about her parent or her mom getting killed by the mob boss she's trying to take down. There are different characters who are killed. And in the TV show, she seems to be able to change into She-Hulk at will, but she didn't. She originally was more like Bruce Banner in the sense that like it only happened when she was irritated, but she gained control of it thanks to a serum from Dr. Michael Morbius. So it was Morbin time in the 80s.
Love it.
She was
I still haven't. I haven't morbed just yet. I know it's on Netflix right now.
I have not.
I do want to morb it at some point. See what happens.
Maybe a special Halloween picture or something.
That wasn't a hint at an episode. I just want to see Morbius.
Yes.
I've heard some people say it's like all right, but anyway, we'll get back to that later.
I think I'll just have
maybe
it in the background or something.
Yeah. Put it on in the background. John Byrne was the one that made it to where she's like talking to that she's breaking the fourth wall and all that shit, right?
89. Yeah, the 89 run, the sensational She-Hulk, not the Savage She-Hulk, but the sensational She-Hulk in 89 from John Byrne. He had previously revamped Superman and Man of Steel. Then he was tasked with like, okay, let's do She-Hulk, and apparently it was on the subway where Byrne was like, hey, here's the take. She knows she's in the comic book. So that kind of created this whole fourth wall breaking type of thing before Deadpool. And that kind of helped make her even more of her own thing rather than just, again, it could have just easily been like lawyer by day, Hulk at night type of thing, a combination of Daredevil and Bruce Banner, but she's a she. So like that, it basically put it in a different direction to make her more of her own character, which I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. So since the TV show with Bixby and Ferrigno was partially responsible for its creation, you would think it's no brainer they would want to bring her into that, into that show, into that universe. And apparently there may have been several attempts to try to bring that over. So now back to what we were talking about with the Unmade She-Hulks. A lot of the info I'm sharing comes from an article from Murphy's Multiverse. And according to their research, there were rumors from Starlog's Comic Scene magazine that She-Hulk was to appear in the final TV film with Bixby and Ferrigno, which was 1990's The Death of the Incredible Hulk, which kind of makes sense. You would think maybe he dies and then she takes over, and then it's now like a She-Hulk thing as they continue the franchise. However, this didn't happen. She's not in the final film, so who knows what happened there. There was still development of an episode called, a sequel to this, The Revenge of the Incredible Hulk, where I guess they would have resurrected the character from the dead, which kind of defeats the purpose of The Death of the Incredible Hulk, but okay. But that ended up getting stalled, and The Death of the Incredible Hulk was the final television movie for this. However, it looks like ABC still wanted to do the character, and at that time there was no Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios. There's no Disney in control of this type of stuff. Disney at this point is probably laughing at this whole Marvel thing and not even imagining a world where they can make these movies. Instead, it is a company I don't think they're around anymore, New World Pictures, has the adaptation rights to Marvel
Okay.
at this point, and they're like, we're going to bring She-Hulk to the screen again on television, probably because of the fact Hulk is so popular on television. They're probably not thinking movie just yet. So
Right.
many say this would have been a spin-off to the Incredible Hulk show, with Bixby and Ferrigno returning to kind of pass the torch over to She-Hulk. And one of the things that sort of supports this is the fact that we know for sure one of the confirmed people behind this was a woman named Jill Sherman Donner, who was a producer on the Incredible Hulk series. So she for sure was in development around 1990, 1991 for this. So according to Murphy's Multiverse, the network, ABC, wanted actress Melissa Gilbert to play Jennifer Walters. She had played Laura Ingalls Wilder in Little House on the Prairie, going way, way back and stuff as a kid. But she's more famous among us Bat fans as being the voice of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, in Batman the Animated Series. So that could have been interesting to have somebody who was going to be She-Hulk also end up being Batgirl and sort of live in both worlds. But it looks like Jill Sherman Donner had a different choice and cast Baywatch actress Mitzi Kapture as Jennifer Walters, who we have on the left, and Gabrielle Reece, a volleyball player and fashion model, was going to be She-Hulk, kind of replicating the casting process of, like Bixby and Ferrigno. Now we have Kapture and Reece. We're going to have like different actors, one for the alter ego and one for like the Hulk side. So
That's funny. I saw her on Don't Judge Me, Rogan. I see some Joe Rogan episodes from some time to time.
Reece?
Yeah, Reece, yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with her.
Yeah.
Other than this, to me, I'm just like, oh, she's almost with She-Hulk. But yeah, there's a lot of other things.
She is married to the famous surfer Laird Hamilton, and I watched both their episodes or listened to. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, interesting knowledge. I didn't know she was up for that.
Yeah, so it looks like they were cast, and a pilot script was written, and there are legends that it was even filmed or partially filmed in 1991. It amazes me that this never leaked then. Yeah.
They filmed some shit?
They might have filmed it. I'm not... here's the thing. You would think at this point somebody would have asked any of these three women, whether it's Jill Sherman Donner or Mitzi Kapture or Gabrielle Reece, if they filmed anything. I could not find any confirmation about that. So I'm inclined to believe they didn't end up getting to that point, or they would have said something. I mean,
maybe they filmed like... They didn't get to the effects part, probably. They might have filmed some...
Yeah.
Exterior shots, or it could have been nothing, but if it was something, that's cool. By the way, the one on the left, the one that's not Gabby Reece, she does sort of look like the woman playing She-Hulk now, kind of.
Sort of as kind Jennifer of to me. or as She-Hulk.
As Jennifer.
As Jennifer, yeah, she kind of does. There's the similar look, which is interesting too, because Jennifer doesn't. If we go back to how she looks on the comic cover, she's kind of got the, of its time haircut as Jen.
Oh yeah, that's
fine. Much shorter, which is fine. But it kind of got modernized as we went along, and it is interesting that we've got a similar hairstyle. But apparently, the pilot script was titled Metamorphosis and would have taken inspiration from the original Savage She-Hulk comic, especially the very first one, written by Stan Lee. Where Jennifer Walters is trying to take down a criminal mob boss who's responsible for the murder of her mom in the comics, though they made it more Batman-like, apparently, and made it the murder of both of her parents, right in front of her in Crime Alley.
So they don't want to take Batman's name, Bruce, but they'll take his origin.
Clearly, yes.
Just appropriate whatever they want, I guess.
While on the case, Jen apparently is forced to go on vacation to the Caribbean, where she meets a handsome towel boy who is actually Bill Bixby's Dr. Banner in disguise. Now, we got to go into something important here. Jen is not Banner's cousin in this pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe they thought it would be too weird to suddenly introduce, like, oh, by the way, this guy you've been following for like 10 years on TV, yeah, he had a cousin he never mentioned. I mean, it's kind of how they did it in the comic, too. But still.
It's that plus, hear me out, they wanted the Hulks to fuck.
So,
if they're not related, they can do it. They would have had a whole Hulk fuck scene.
I can't help but wonder if a young David Goyer got a hold of this pilot script and was
forgot
like,
about all that David Goyer shit.
She-Hulk was created to fuck Hulk. It all makes sense. And I'm like, no. It's only like that in this unmade pilot or unaired pilot. It's not like the cousins of the comics.
I actually said all that without even thinking of the Goyer shit. Like he was legit serious about like what this was created because of. I was just thinking on from the perspective of a Hollywood producer.
Right. Yeah, but it's a possibility.
They can't be related.
It's a possibility he might be right, at least when it comes to this TV show.
When it comes to this, yes, yeah. But again, we've said it before. We referenced it many times, but Dark Knight scribe David Goyer and Man of Steel and many others. Look up his comments about She-Hulk, and you'll just have a grand old time.
Yes. It's funny, too, because at that time when he said those things, I'm just like, you know what? The best thing they could do for Marvel to shut him up is to do a She-Hulk TV show. I was off by a few years, but that's, now we're here. So
it's true, but the reception still, I feel like it's... Anyway, we're going to get to that later in the episode.
Yeah. Well, at least they kept the cousin thing in the new show.
They're still cousins.
Sparks fly, apparently, between Jen and David Banner, but a hitman has tracked Jen to Caribbean and attacks, and this is where Banner apparently hulks out to help save Jen, but her injuries are too severe. So much like in the comic origin, Banner decides that he has to give her blood to survive, even though he knows that might have dire effects and turn her into a Hulk. And of course,
they have a blood transfusion right in the middle of the street, right?
I don't know.
That's in the comic. That's in one of the comics I read. In the comic,
he brings her into a place and does that.
Man, there was one I feel like he was like straight up in the middle of the road doing it or something. I could be off, but that's in my memory for some reason.
The closest I can think of is the new TV show. Well, but he's not really giving the transfusion.
It happens so quick in the show, right? It's like drop, drip, 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 and then boom, she's there. Like they really didn't want to stay too long on that origin.
I think also they didn't want to bring in the moral implications of should I give her my blood type of thing. It's definitely a choice where he's like, all right, I got to do this, but either doesn't think about it or he does think about it, but thinks like it's worth it to keep her alive. Whereas here they kind of just. They took the choice away. It is kind of just like he didn't want it to happen, but it kind of did. And it kind of makes sense the way that they did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think the cousin connection in general makes more sense to have them genetically related. So it makes sense for them to have a transfusion, similar blood type, as well as the idea presented in the Disney Plus pilot where they're kind of genetically somehow able to handle the gamma radiation. The fact that they're related. That
similar reaction.
Yeah, as opposed to like kind of random woman you encounter in the Caribbean now has your power type of
thing. I always like Stan Lee's little spiel about the Hulk. He was like, I don't even know what a gamma ray is. It just sounds good.
Which is why it works so well. Yeah.
I mean, he obviously knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Him and Jack Kirby.
So there is a 1978 Hulk wiki page. For this pilot specifically, and I don't really put a lot of stock into fan wikis, but this is one where there's not a lot of information on what this could be, and there's a possibility that somebody actually did get a hold of this pilot. Again, we do not have the script for this, so I don't know how much of this is true. I'm just going off of what I've read. It also describes her as being Jessica Walters as opposed to Jennifer Walters. So either they got that wrong, or once again,
Jennifer sounds a little gay.
Exactly. Once again, they thought the first name sounded too gay and decided to change it. 1980s, everybody.
I don't get it, but I guess it was at that time. They were just ramping up to do a shitload of coke at a ski resort and fucking drive that red Lamborghini, that boxy ass Lamborghini. You know what I'm talking about?
God,
that 80s.
Damn it.
God damn it. The 80s Hollywood vibe, dude. Come on.
Yeah. So it sounds like the hitmen tried to attack Jen again, but she transforms into She-Hulk in order to protect herself, and she experiences these blackouts whenever she hulks out. And it's David Banner who sort of mentors her and helps her deal with this new life. And Hulk and She-Hulk, of course, would team up to stop the assassins from killing her and find out who's behind these attempts on her life. They'd solve the mystery, but she'd end the episode hitchhiking on the road, much like Banner himself. Synopsis also claims that the reporter McGee from the TV show would arrive to hunt down the story, only to be surprised by the fact that people are saying the Hulk is a woman. That can't be right. But he finds out very soon that it is correct. So one thing that they did confirm from Jill Sherman Donner herself is that apparently She-Hulk would not have been green. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So this is apparently a quote from a 2011 book, You Wouldn't Like Me When I'm Angry, a Hulk Companion, great title, by Patrick Jankowitz. Jill Sherman Donner said, quote, I made her golden instead of green because green isn't pretty. So,
oh, man. That's weird.
Changing your skin color.
I would have thought it would have been like red or something. I mean, like the red She-Hulk, you know?
Yeah, like red kind of makes a little bit more sense with like anger, you would think. But yeah, it's changing her skin color made her seem more feminine, prettier, and different than just making her green.
She sparkles.
So, yeah, this is a big mistake in my opinion. Like you're taking away like the iconic colors of the character when you're doing this. So I'm kind of glad that this did not go through.
You know, they seem less like a family, man. Although I will say sometimes, and again, I like the show, but like she does remind me of Shrek at times. But I know there's no way around it, man. Like she's just that exact same color green, and she's CG, so it's just like, and she's older than fucking Shrek is, whatever the Shrek woman is. I forget her name,
Fiona.
Dude. Fiona.
Fiona.
She reminds me of Fiona kind of a little bit, but like She-Hulk's older than Fiona, man. So it's just like Fiona looks like she's She-Hulk, man. That's how it should be.
Right.
That's how we should think about it.
Unavoidable comparisons, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how this hasn't leaked, if it was shot, or why people haven't asked. Or maybe they have asked and I haven't found the interview. Like if, you know, let's get Gabrielle Reece on and ask if she was painted golden, you know, and find out. But that's pretty much what we know about this. Some conflicting stories as well in terms of why this did not go through. So some say that they were not convinced that Mitzi Kapture as Jennifer Walters could hold the series. Others say that it's because the previous thing, Death of the Incredible Hulk in 1990, didn't do well in the ratings. So those are factors. We also have to factor in the fact that Bill Bixby passed away in 1993, which, however, was a couple years after this was supposedly shot and written. So I don't think that had an effect at that time, if we're talking 1991.
Death of the Incredible Hulk was in the theater?
It's a TV movie.
The TV movie. Dude, forgive me, internet. I didn't even know this movie existed. Did you watch it?
Yeah, it's a series of TV movies. I haven't. I've only seen a few episodes of the Bill Bixby show.
Yeah.
I've wanted to see Trial of the Incredible Hulk, though, because that's the one that has the first Daredevil with Rex Smith, the first Kingpin with John Rhys Davies, Sala himself, or Gimli from Lord of the Rings as Kingpin. And it also, I think it's the first Stan Lee cameo. He's a juror in that. When,
nice.
Bixby like hulks out on the stand, and he's like, "Oh my god!" So
that's not the one with Thor. Thor's not in that one.
Thor's in another one.
Thor's in another one. I mean, they were doing shit. That was in 1990. I thought this Hulk show was in like the mid 80s, or it went up from the mid 80s to the 90s.
It ended in 90 with Death of the Incredible Hulk. And I think they were still trying to continue it.
I cannot believe it went up into the 90s. That's crazy. I thought
it was that one, you know.
The one, okay, yeah.
So, still like left over from the 80s, but they definitely wanted to continue it, as we can see with these attempts, or at least sort of spin off into like spin-offs of She-Hulk using, you know, Baywatch actors and Gabrielle Reece. So like it makes sense during that time that they would do that. But they, you know, obviously this was the most popular version of Hulk at that time anyway. So it's not surprising that they would try to bring her in. However, it didn't work out for whatever reason, and this was not the last attempt at this. After this, there was a movie attempt to bring She-Hulk to life where she would have been green, and they actually do have pictures released of it, and you'll find out more about that after the break.
Just wanted to announce that I have a new podcast called Gaming Gaiden. It's about retro gaming. It's a lot about Japanese to English translation. In this first season, it will be 10 episodes each season. First season will be dropping soon. much sooner than I'm on a recon. The co-host for this one will be Mike Torres. If you saw the ranking every Superman video game two-parter we did here on Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you have seen Mike before. So yes, if you like video games, if you've been interested in Japanese ever, we're going to be talking a lot about just Japan in general, Japanese cultural differences as well, and we also are going to have a lot of talk about 90s video game magazines such as Electronic Gaming Monthly, aka EGM, so stay tuned for that. So please be on the lookout for Gaming Gaiden podcast coming soon.
Hi, it's me, Jeremy Parrish, co-host of the Retronauts podcast, the only video game history podcast that's been around so long, it's also a part of video game history. Every week, one of the motley rabble who host this show leads a deep dive into the past, whether it's to break down a classic franchise, learn more about a timeless game from its creator, or just wallow in nostalgia. Relive history with Retronauts, here on the HyperX Podcast Network.
The award-winning Go Nintendo podcast is the best place to get the latest news on the world of Nintendo. We cover the biggest stories, share impressions of the latest games, and answer your burning questions. There's also some general pop culture talk, game music trivia, a heaping helping of silliness, and did I mention our robot companion?
I'm the star of the show.
Catch new episodes of the Go Nintendo podcast every Saturday on the HyperX Podcast Network.
What's that? Majestically cresting the horizon as it makes its way into port. Why, it's the brand new HyperX Armada monitors, mounts, and arms. Both the HyperX Armada 25 and 27 gaming monitors come bundled with the sturdy HyperX Armada mount and arm. If you need every split second of advantage when gaming, the Full HD Armada 25 and its 240Hz refresh rate are for you. If you like to soak in the graphical majesty of your gaming, you'll be eyeing the Quad HD Armada 27 with an 165Hz refresh rate. Set sail for HyperX.com or Amazon.com to start making your display Armada.
Hello, fans. As part of the HyperX Podcast Network, we're letting you know that this year is HyperX's 20th birthday. To celebrate, they're offering some great deals on their award-winning gaming gear. If you're in the market for a new headset, a new microphone, blue light blocking eyewear, or any number of other high-quality HyperX products, head on over to hyperx20.com to check out all the birthday deals. Once again, check out the HyperX 20th birthday sale over at hyperx.com.
And we're back, and we're going to continue talking about She-Hulk. So we found out a She-Hulk TV series did not work, so they decided,
I'm going to move my camera
let's do a movie.
Bit. Hold on.
So New World Pictures tries to move on and do a film. A lot of this episode comes thanks to one of our Twitter fans, Kanye Cannon, superhero geek. Twitter handle Kanye Geek. Kanye, not spelled like Kanye West, but spelled like Con, like Comic-Con. So anyway, in 1991, in May, there was an announcement at Cannes Film Festival at a press conference on the beach that they were going to make a She-Hulk film casting Brigitte Nielsen for movies like Red Sonja, Cobra, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and Rocky 4. And Nielsen did a photo shoot as She-Hulk, as I'm going to pull up right now. So here are the pictures of her in costume. You've got her all colored, different shades of green, different types of green in terms of her costume, wearing a big wig here. And there's even a poster that says She-Hulk, soon to be a major motion picture, from New World International and Tamara Asayev Productions, she was the producer for this one. So
these are pretty cool. I have seen this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Before. I did not know anything about the stuff we went over before the break. This is pretty cool. It also says something about this was the first woman character Marvel tried to do, right?
I want to say yes. I'm trying to, in terms of like a live action adaptation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there were others Marvel specific. But yeah,
okay. The other major ones are part of the X-Men, and I guess Captain Marvel maybe, but
there was an attempt to do a Daredevil Black Widow thing a while back.
Oh, okay. But not Solo though.
Not Solo, yeah, not Solo.
Not
so
Solo.
Say Solo female Marvel specifically. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, she's got like a pretty top place in Marvel, but people just don't talk about her as much. At least, well, they are now, but they didn't for a long time. So yeah.
Nielsen did this photo shoot. She was both She-Hulk, but she was also Jennifer Walters, as we see in these pictures here, the lawyer alter ego. She would have played both roles, which kind of just makes She-Hulk a green version of Jen in this version. But it kind of makes sense. Why would you want to replace Brigitte Nielsen with someone else at the same time when it's a major star like that? It's understandable if you're trying to do like a TV show with like up-and-comers. But for here, it's like, okay, we already have a major star in it. We want her in this as much as possible. Get your money's worth. So
definitely,
that's kind of cool. At the film festival, they passed out apparently 4-page brochures promising that she would be, quote, a femme fatale film sensation for the 90s. And her outfit, which we see here, was from a place called Trashy Lingerie in Hollywood. Amazing.
I mean, it sort of gets the idea across, though.
Another article states it would have started filming in September 1991 in Australia with the producer I mentioned before, Tamara Asayev. And there was different conflicting reports in terms of script and director. We definitely know the producers and the production company behind it. Some say it's B-movie director Larry Cohen, who was hired to do the film and may have co-written the script. Others say that Mark Verheiden turned down writing it. Many say Carl Gottlieb wrote a draft or turned in a treatment. There's another thing I saw where Stan Lee, he somehow turned into a treatment in this. I don't know. Some sources say no script was written at all. It's a mess in terms of what this could have been.
It probably was a mess, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
it probably was. It probably was all of these in some way.
There might have been a treatment, and they were probably trying to pump it up to
everybody was contributing to it.
Get people into it, and then they would have written a script. Maybe that's what I'm gathering here.
Yeah, I think so. Andy Mangels confirmed in an article that we're seeing here that he turned into treatment in July of '91, where She-Hulk fought a cybernetically enhanced villainess named Cicada.
They just would not do any fucking shit from the comics? That's not from the comics, I assume.
I don't think so, no. So the producer Asayev hoped that the final script would have, quote, the humor of Beetlejuice, the look of Batman 89, that would be cool, and the action of The Punisher 89, the Dolph Lundgren version.
Okay.
In terms of what they hope to have in this movie, in an interview, Nielsen said that the film wouldn't actually cover much of the origin. She said that she was at some point injected with the same serum that Banner got at the same time. Quote, she's well adjusted to the phenomenon when we start our good-natured adventure. So that's interesting.
They just don't want to deal with the origin.
Yeah. I have a feeling they probably would have wanted to bring in Bixby in some way at this. Remember, it's 91. It's a couple years before his death, so it was still on the table. They wanted to find some ways to bring it in. So maybe it was something that was part of it. Nielsen, however, was on the record that she wanted her co-star in this to be Jeff Daniels as a romantic lead, not as Bruce Banner, but as a romantic lead, citing that she loved him in the movie Something Wild, which, funny enough, is the same movie that Sam Hamm saw and thought that the late Ray Liotta would be a great Joker for his script for Batman 89.
Right, okay.
Nielsen said, quote, Jeff Daniels would make sure our on-screen liaison was more romantic than just hot. This could have been interesting. Because I'm sort of picturing that she's obviously in like her own, or she's switching modes between her Jen Walters mode and the She-Hulk mode, and the She-Hulk one would be obviously very dominant. I can see Jeff Daniels kind of being like a Clark Kent person type of character in this, if we're going off of his Something Wild type of character. So it could have been interesting, but I think this might be more of her wishful thinking than what was actually in the script or what was developed. For anyone who might want to turn around and report that Jeff Daniels was going to play the lead. That's not really what was said. It was more that's what she wanted. Mm-hmm. So how come this didn't work? Well, there are a few things. One is that supposedly maybe the studio wasn't super confident that She-Hulk was going to work. Again, like the Bixby show had just finished. They just did Death of the Incredible Hulk. Is Hulk still relevant anymore? Because Hulk's been around for so long. And maybe they were hoping that bringing in Brigitte Nielsen and having this photo shoot and showing this at this film festival would have more investors and get this thing moving. But I think a big part of this is the fact that this is before the MCU. This is before Blade. This is before X-Men. the Bryan Singer, Hugh Jackman one. So back then, Marvel is less associated with like hit blockbuster movies. Yeah. And they're more associated with other stuff that came out in the 90s or right beforehand, which was Howard the Duck, the 90s Captain America, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. Like, it's also worth mentioning, apparently they announced a Punisher 2 with Dolph Lundgren at this film festival. Obviously, that didn't happen either. So,
oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of what it's a what if, but I think it's just the timing was not there for this. At least from the perspective of like very risk-averse studio execs.
Yeah, for sure.
So, who knows? Maybe they should bring her in for a cameo into the She-Hulk TV show right now. That'd be pretty
that
cool.
Would be cool. Maybe she will be.
Yeah.
She could easily be like a juror or somebody in the courtroom.
Yeah, or some other role, and maybe she gives advice to She-Hulk about something because she's, or a hint of something cool like that.
And then Jeff Daniels as Harry Dunn shows up. With his fucked up hair. That's from Dumb and Dumber.
Should do that.
Everybody, look, I know he's done like 1,000 serious roles. He's on network and shit, but he's always going to be Harry Dunn to me, man. I saw Dumb and Dumber like 400 times when I was a kid.
He's great in both. He's great in comedic and in dramatic, and I'm wondering how he would have been like in a comic book type of role. It
would have been incredible. I mean, I could see him as the head of Hydra or whatever the fuck. Secret Invasion. I just saw that trailer today. I think I'm 2 days late. Looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
He could be in that. That would have been awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because that's like the thriller type. Like, I think
Senator,
Network
who's
was
also a Skrull type of thing.
Yeah. It'd be cool. I forgot that Jeff Daniels hasn't been in Marvel just yet. They haven't taken him in.
If we're going in like Batman universe in an alternate world, Gordon. I think he could have been a good Gordon.
With the stash.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Lastly, we have one last attempt, which was also brought to our attention by Kanye Canyon, which has Cory Everson, who is Ms. Olympia at one point. So it says here, another television She-Hulk project emerged in the 90s, produced by Oliver Stone.
Whoa.
Yeah. Who cast Ms. Olympia bodybuilding champion Cory Everson in the title role. Yes, I was involved with Oliver Stone to play the She-Hulk, which I was very excited about. Everson wrote this author in 2003. We had met with Stan Lee, who I adore, and we had the pilot and scripts ready. No footage was shot as a pilot. I am not sure whatever happened to it. I think Mr. Stone may have gotten involved at the same time with a huge film, and we never picked it back up again. I also remember there was some talking with either CBS or NBC, and it just never fell. I just fell into Never Neverland.
Okay.
Timing was wrong. We also have this Facebook post from her basically saying the same thing, meeting with Stan Lee and never producing the series, and everyone just got busy with other things.
Okay.
So it also says here that on top of that, let's see, Everson regrets not being able to don green body makeup and launch a new superhero into popularity. Quote, "It was too bad. I know in my heart it would have been more popular than Xena. Just know that a strong, sexy character who had a ton of personality and was a bit insecure with a body to die for would have made some great TV, and she also would have made a lot of friends with the viewers." So that's pretty much all we know on that. Again, no leaked pilot script on that, unless some of our fans can, pass a few things over to us for future episodes. But that's what we got. One of the shorter ones for this week in terms of unmade She-Hulk stuff. But that's kind of all we know for these other attempts that were brought about, which then finally brings us to She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the current Disney Plus show that's been going on. I think we've watched 4 episodes so far as of this recording.
Yes.
And let's dive a little bit into some of it for that. It's not a complete season yet, so we can't really dive into how, well the overall season is. But so far on this one, this has been one that's been it's been somewhat controversial, very controversial on the internet. Probably because it was always going to be that way, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I am enjoying it. I don't think it's their best show. I think their best show is WandaVision still. To me, the top, and if you include the Netflix ones, I don't think they get much better than the first Daredevil season and WandaVision. Like theirs at the top. That's like the S tier.
Yeah.
And then like A tier to me would be like Jessica Jones season 1 and Luke Cage season 1. Honestly, the other Disney ones, well, I can't rate.
Everything else is kind of below that.
Not to have a cop out, but we haven't finished the She-Hulk season yet, so I can't rank it. But like they're all kind of probably under that. So
a lot of them are like B- territory.
Yeah, B- kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what was that one, Iron Fist and shit, man? Defenders, that shit was bad, dude. I could not get through that, man. So like you said, Ben and I have had some conversations about this offline, but off the air, but like it's overly hated, as you said.
For sure.
I think a lot of that has to do with like, Marvel is like boy world. I mean, stereotypically, it's like a lot of dudes are into it. So I swear, I feel like this is part of it. God, I hope we don't get too many hate comments. But just hear me out, please, before you start typing. It's, so I feel like there's a little bit of like female gaze or like the woman's perspective thrown into this kind of mainly male world. Like this show has women writers, women producer, women directors, women star. You know what I mean? So we're getting like almost basically 100% women made show. Mm-hmm. So with, I don't know. I don't even know if there's like women tastes or not, like as far as comic books are, except for maybe like women for women characters. But so I think that's part of the hate, and people will say it's like bad writing or whatever. But I don't know if a percentage of those people saying it's bad writing. I just question why they say that. Mm-hmm. I question why. Like I don't know, man. A percentage of it might be because they just don't like women. I'm not sure. And again, I don't think it's the best show. And again, I'm saying just a small percentage of those people that might sound louder than they are on Twitter and whatnot. They might be louder and make seem like there's more of them than there really are. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And I mean, so Ben, feel free to chime in at any point, man. We can have a back and forth about this. So go ahead.
For this one, right? I agree. It's not my favorite. At all on this. I think the listing, the tier ranking that you had is pretty accurate for this one. And I think there's definitely, if anything, there's still very much the hand of the studio behind this one in terms of like choices that feel very safe for this. I think, even though like it is still very against the grain when it comes to just the general studio output of the different movies and stuff. There's obviously a lot more comedic, a lot more down to earth with the stuff that is now in a courtroom. And I also think that She-Hulk lends itself a lot more to the television aspect. A lot of these Disney Plus shows, they don't feel like TV shows. They're just very extended movies. Like there's just other excuses to like bring eyes to the platform. But for here, it definitely feels like a TV show because now it's like, oh, we have a case of the week type of thing.
It's a tonal shift, which is another thing that's maybe setting some people off.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's already was supposed to be more comedic than usual because that's the character, and I think a lot of people are getting very tired of the MCU comedy type of stuff, which I can't blame them based off of other stuff, but that doesn't mean that all comedy is bad in this. And to be fair, not everything hits in terms of all the jokes for these either. The stuff that's funny and the stuff that's not. But I mean, that's what's going to happen when you're experimenting with this type of stuff. So it's all right. I'm enjoying the different MCU connections as well for it. I do appreciate that Tim Roth is back as the Abomination. I was not expecting how they were going to continue the Abomination in that way. My biggest issue, I think, with when Abomination gets brought in or Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner gets brought in, is that it feels like the best dramatic stuff for these characters who have been around since the 2008 MCU Incredible Hulk movie is that majority of the dramatic development seems to happen off screen for these characters. Like suddenly we have not seen Abomination since 2008, and since 2008 he apparently has completely reformed himself, is all like zen like, and Bruce has even forgiven him. That's a far cry from the last time we saw that, and we saw none of that in this TV show. It all happened before this even happened. I'm like,
I guess because it's been like 20 years or some shit since then, but still,
it has been. Yeah. I mean, it's freaky, but it's been 14 years since the Incredible Hulk. It doesn't feel like it, but it's been 14 years. So
wait,
like,
that's the Eric Bana one?
No,
the other one.
Edward Norton one, man.
The Edward Norton one. Who was the other guy? The other guy.
Yeah. So, like, I get it. It's been some time. But still, like, there's a part in like episode 2 where Bruce is just like, "Oh yeah, like we've forgiven him. I was a completely different person," literally, which is it's a funny joke, but dramatically, I'm like, we could have seen some of this. We could have seen Bruce having some problem with the fact that you're representing him, like something like that, to just give dramatic tension to that. I get that, maybe Ruffalo's only contracted for a certain amount of episodes, so they could only do so much, and they wanted to continue that storyline. But it's stuff like that where I'm like, the majority of that is done off screen. You and I have talked before about the fact that Bruce's development from, his two warring sides is suddenly solved like off screen like that between Infinity War and Endgame. Well, between
he comes back and it's like, oh, I can control it. I'm always the Hulk and I'm fine. Like,
yeah, it's like the biggest issue he's had for decades.
Yeah, that was like probably one of the MCU's worst mistakes. Was they just couldn't they did not handle Hulk, and like in Avengers 1 he fucking rules,
yeah
he's like a monster. He is the weapon that Loki uses in a sense. He wants to get captured, all that stuff.
He wanted to get caught,
but then like, as time went, it's just like they didn't know what to do with him, man. Meanwhile, and I haven't read it, but I know in the comics, the Immortal Hulk or whatever was having like the best run ever, like the horror Hulk series.
Yeah, that's been highly recommended to me too.
Yeah. People have been talking about that. So it's just like the movies, like at least he's there, but it just could have been handled better. They didn't know what they're doing. Really,
it seems like after Age of Ultron, they just didn't know, because like we get Thor Ragnarok tries to adapt Planet Hulk, and we've talked about this in the Patreon. But like, if you read the Planet Hulk comic and then you saw Thor Ragnarok, I can understand you being disappointed in how they adapted Planet Hulk, because it went from, they made a comedy out of what is really a like hardcore life and death Spartacus gladiator type of story from the comics. So there was that aspect, and then I didn't mind how Hulk kind of had his own journey in Infinity War of the fact that he had to sort of accept being Banner in like the Hulkbuster suit. But apparently, this is, kind of going into the unmade Hulk stuff, there was a scene, and it's online, where Bruce argues with the Hulk in terms of them being in the Hulk Buster armor, and how he, they sort out their issues in a way, and they both agree that they have to fight together in order to survive this fight with Thanos' army. And apparently after that was when Smart Hulk breaks out of the Hulkbuster armor, blocks the guy attacking, and then he realizes he's both Banner and Hulk at the same time. And he says, "We worked it out." And then he would have continued the rest of the movie.
That would have been cool. I don't know why they cut that.
We needed that. That's what we needed. It's a very short scene, so it could have used a little bit more time, but that's better than what we got.
It's better than nothing at all, yeah.
Yeah, and we got nothing at all. And now he's like all zen and stuff on an island. And again, I'm just like, this guy went through so much shit in just the last couple of Avengers movies. He feels responsible and guilty for the death of half the universe, because he talks about that, how they failed to stop Thanos, and granted, most of the Avengers feel that way too about that. So he feels about that. The woman he loved, Nat, Black Widow, dies, and he never even gets to say goodbye to her on that. And then he nearly loses an arm, snapping everybody back to existence, which, by the way, nobody seems to acknowledge at all.
Right.
Afterwards.
It's all about Tony.
It's all about Tony, which, like, sure, Tony did sacrifice himself. It was great. He helped take out the rest of Thanos' army, but Hulk literally brought back half the universe, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody says anything about this. Nobody talks about this. Like Hulk's the savior.
You're right, and I think this is where some of the misplaced hate for the show is. Maybe the reasons are off a little bit because, and again, this is why it's not just a type of misogyny, I think, because people are seeing how kind of mean she is to Hulk, to Bruce in the first episode.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't know. I don't know, man, but she's just doesn't seem to know his backstory. She's kind of mean to her cousin. Yeah. And, a lot of people watching this were probably, maybe even subconsciously, just like, what the fuck did Bruce do, man? All he's trying to do is help you, Yeah. So she doesn't come off as like super likable in the first episode. And I have a thing too where I don't like it when people like hate to train or don't want to train in a show.
Also, it all comes easy for her anyway.
It comes easy for you.
Why am I watching this? She can do everything anyway.
I didn't really like it when Luke left Dagobah early or whatever, right? Didn't he leave training early and with Yoda?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he had to go into the third act of the movie.
The
writers dictated
he had to take his spaceship to the third act. I love that. Okay,
he skips his training. The plot.
How do we speed this shit up with this green puppet? Moving on to other green characters. So at any rate, maybe it's better written in Star Wars, but it's like, dude, you need to fucking train a little more. You have this fucking. I know it's like a lighter tone, which is part of the issue, but. Mm-hmm. Like, if it was, like, even 1% of a heavier tone, she would be like, Bruce, help me. I don't know what's going on with me. You're the only other Hulk. I need help. You know what I mean? I guess that makes her rely on a man too much, like, thematically.
It's the Sherman Donner thing, where he's like, hey, like, this is how it's like. This is what you got to do. And, like, they tried to do it, but it was also done in a way where she's just like, I don't got to listen to you. I don't want to do this, which, again, like, I feel like this is a waste of time. We know she's She-Hulk.
It's just kind of...
she's going to do stuff.
It kind of put me off. Like we're gonna have like a maybe she'll complete that character arc. Again, we're only 4 episodes in at this point, but maybe she'll complete that character arc and she'll be like, "Sorry, I was a jerk, Bruce," or whatever. I think that would be cool. But I didn't love that either, and I think that the other issues with the show is just like it's a little slow at the moment. It feels slow-ish, and she's only kind of fought like regular street muggers and demon bats, which demon bats are cool, and I guess, again, a part of this is because it's the origin, and she doesn't want to be a superhero yet either. Mm-hmm. It's I want to see her Hulk the fuck out. I want to see her do some major damage. I want to see a really cool action scene, and man, the demon bats, just not cool enough, just not really just yet. Like, it's fine. That would have been
fine as Ep 4 if she had a big fight in Eps 1 through 3,
Yeah.
But because it's kind of the first time she's really done superhero type stuff with it. Like, she had the whole thing fighting Titania in the courtroom, but that was literally like 1 or 2 punches, and then that's it, and that's the end. And then the fight with the Muggers was really more to save herself. So this is like, it's the very first time that she sort of debuts in the show as like having to literally step in and choose to step in to save people as opposed to being forced into it. And it was fine for what it was, but as like a debut thing, I agree, it's lacking. But it would have been helped if there was other stuff in the previous episode, so it didn't feel like this was like all on this episode in episode 4.
And I felt like in episode 4, the magician's man, that's just mostly not funny to me. Like, I know everybody's got a different sense of humor, and dude, that was just not. I thought the show had fallen off at that point. I was man.
I do like the dynamic with Wong, though. I was not expecting that the dynamic carrying, like one of my favorite dynamics of the show would not be with Jen and Bruce, but would be with Jen and Wong of all people. But, you know, as I've told you before, I guess he's the guy you bring in if Cumberbatch is busy. You know, if you can't bring in Cumberbatch because he's got a million different roles going on right now, then, you know, bring in this guy, and he's great in it as that. And
he's starting to feel like what you call it, Sam Jackson,
Nick Fury, yeah.
Yeah, like Nick Fury. Although Secret Invasion's looking like it's going to be a Nick Fury movie, huh?
Yeah,
there's a lot of him in it.
Yeah, it's Nick Fury and Talos, the Skrull dude.
You might as well, man. Yeah. You know, he's been in like most of the other movies. So
yeah,
especially Phase 1, 2, 3.
I do like how Phase 4 has, at least in the Disney Plus shows and stuff, sort of highlighted some of the guys who were more of the supporting characters and then made them more front and center. You know, like that's what made WandaVision very interesting, was the fact I'm like, okay, we feel like we barely know these characters, but then suddenly you felt like you really knew these characters.
Oh man, what a great show!
Yeah, like they needed to do that with the others, and they've been, you know, sometimes they've been more successful than others, but I think that's kind of what's helped, and I think maybe a part of this is the frustration when it comes to She-Hulk, that like, hey, She-Hulk's getting this show. Meanwhile, Hulk's gotten sort of the short straw on so much of this stuff in the team-up movies, and hasn't had a solo movie since 2008, in 14 years. And you know,
that's this Universal owns the rights or something.
There's a Universal, but you know, I'm like, I feel like it's probably, if I were to speculate, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, because I really doubt that Universal is like, yeah, the superhero thing and teaming up with Marvel, you know, kind of doing what Sony does when teaming up with Marvel for Spider-Man. We don't want to do that. Like, I really doubt that's their attitude about this. I really don't think it's Universal refusing. I could be wrong on that. I'm sure there's people in the comments who have some info on that, but I refuse to believe that Universal hates money that much. You know?
That's true. I mean, if Sony could work it out with Spider-Man, anything could happen.
Yeah. So, even if they are making Morbius. So we have,
I mean, they've made a lot happen, haven't they?
Yes.
Do we want to talk about the twerking? Or are we not there just yet?
We're there.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We're there.
Dan, get the photo.
I couldn't believe this, honestly, but go ahead,
probably
Ben.
The most talked about post-credits scene in a long time. I can't think of anything that's been talked about more, actually, in terms of post-credits scenes recently.
It's been more talked about than the war in Ukraine and Russia. More talked about.
By ridiculous, I mean the controversy about it. Like, it's.
Yeah.
The best way to sum this up, in my opinion on this, the best way to sum this up is this meme that's been going around with people saying Marvel would never make She-Hulk twerk in the comics. Meanwhile, Marvel making She-Hulk jump rope naked in the comics in Sensational She-Hulk number 40. She jumped rope naked for 22 pages in this issue, issue 40 in 89 and 90. So, again, you can't really say that this is, you know, outside of the character. It's totally in character for this to be happening. You know, if anything,
I think, okay, again, there's larger things at play here, Ben, and let us talk about them. So,
go ahead.
Basically, some people get their wires crossed when they watch a show like this, because they're thinking that this is about women empowerment. She's a lawyer, this and that, woman superhero, and then they'll be like, well, if it's about empowerment, why is she doing this? She has now made herself an object of sex, a sexual object, right? So how powerful can that be? But the problem with that thinking is, how can I say this? The fact that you think that they're immediately a sexual object from that, man, it's kind of tough to explain. I feel like I understand it, but it's hard for me to put it into words.
Well,
there's at least a smidgen of misogyny, if not a lot, in that way of thinking. And if you had,
they're removing the idea of being empowering in a way. Like,
yeah,
they're removing the idea that being sexy or attractive is in some way empowering and can be empowering for either sex.
Exactly. And okay, let's think about let's just do a gender reversal here too. This is what I think will help some people, because maybe some people listening would like, would like to hear this part of this conversation, this topic. So let's say you have Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, and for some reason, Sean William Scott. I just feel like this helps my example. Sean William Scott, Stifler from American Pie. Yeah. They're in this scene. Hell, Ant-Man is... Paul Rudd is Ant-Man. Sean William Scott is just in there because I'm thinking of Role Models, that movie Role Models. Also, Sean William Scott, by the way, would be a great addition to the MCU. Like a fucking seamless transition. Don't know why he's not in it yet.
Put him in Ant-Man 3.
Put him in Ant-Man 3 for the love of God. So
have him twerk with Paul Rudd.
And let's say they're like listening to AC/DC or fucking that was Tony Stark's thing. But Kiss, like in Role Models or some other kind of rock music, and they're kind of like humping the air in a victory dance or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's still sexual. It's still to music. It's still like, it's kind of the same exact thing, but I'm telling you that would not have any of the hate this scene would have had, because that scene would have been seen as the boys playing around.
There's also people bringing up other examples of guys dancing in the MCU with, Star-Lord interrupting. Like, Star-Lord interrupts an entire climactic third act to do a dance-off with Ronan the Accuser in Guardians.
The thing is, that's close.
Even.
It's close, Ben. It's close, but I think it's not as sexual. I feel like you really have to do the humping the air kind of. I don't even know what the fuck. Just imagine Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott like humping the air, like I don't know, fucking like even like there's a guitar move where you can kind of like hump. Anyway. They're playing air guitar and humping.
Right,
It's like somewhat sexual, right? Mm-hmm. To me, it's kind of like the same thing, just about like they're not. I know it's confusing to a lot of guys, but they're not. It's a sexual looking position, and it can be sexual, and it is kind of sexual, but it's just like, oh my God, how can I say this? They're not thinking about the same way you are. They're just having fun as women in this case. Am I reading this wrong?
No, I don't think so. But also to me, I'm just like, it's just a fucking post-credit sequence.
It's post-credits. It's not even the fucking actual thing.
It's like it's less than 2 minutes. Like, I don't really give a shit about this. Like, if I hadn't looked on the internet about this, I would have seen this at the end and probably forgotten about it. Like, I'm not really, like...
People went nuts over it.
It's only notable mainly because of the controversy. It's not because of what's actually in it.
It doesn't... Yeah. I think, okay, just to sum up what I'm saying, because I know it's been kind of confusing. I'm still processing it myself, but basically the main takeaway I think you should take from this audience, not you, Ben, you already know. They're probably, again, not a woman. We're not women on here. Let us know in the comments, but if you are a woman. But I just don't think they're thinking of it the same way you are if you're thinking of it as them just being a sexual object. You know what I mean? They're just having fun with the girls. Right. Just like Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott in my scenario are just having fun victory dance with the boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
that's really it.
So celebrating the fact that she signed basically to be her client.
That's it, man. Yeah. I think it's been blown out of proportion. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with the story because it's a post-credit sequence. Who gives a shit?
Especially when there's a whole issue of her jump roping naked.
She's already been sexual. I mean, that might... I mean, there's some subtle differences here. I mean, this is similar. This is talking about the same thing, but... Mm-hmm. Look, man, I mean, feminism is tricky, dude. This fucking shit's tricky, especially if you're a guy. Mm-hmm. It's fucking hard to figure out, man. At times, so hell, let's continue the conversation in the comments.
Well, on that note, that's superhero stuff you should know. All right, big thanks to Dan for putting together the visuals for this episode, including She-Hulk jumping naked, for those who want to look at that again. Moving on. We'll go over some fan comments, starting with Twitter. Actually, we have Tom Solo at AV1LOS talking about our episode on Michael Goff's Alfred in Nightfall. Somebody watched it. So Vivid.
Do we have low views on that one?
We do, which is people were asking for that to be released, and it's released, and Anyway.
The two people that asked for it watched it, man.
I guess so.
I consider this a win.
Yeah, it is. We gave the people what they wanted. So Tom says, vivid memory of buying Nightfall on audio tape in the 90s at a mall and being thrilled to discover Michael Goff voiced Alfred in it. Completely different time, pre-internet. I had no idea what I had bought years before I heard Lazarus Syndrome on CD. Glad you were covering this. And yes, definitely in the United States, originally on audio cassettes were these released, I think he means. Both Death of Superman and Nightfall were, but Doug Max's earlier Superman and Batman stories first became available here over a decade later on CD. Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next one is we're going back into some of the archive stuff. Some guys have discovered some of our backlog. So this is a comment on the Radio Superman episode we went into from Singing Banana. Singing Banana, I'm kind of disappointed your avatar is not actually a banana singing, but anyway.
I know, you need to get on that, man.
This was great.
Woman.
Yes. Singing Banana says this was great. I'm a huge fan of the Radio Superman. There's not a lot of talk about Radio Superman on the internet, and this was a very knowledgeable breakdown. I agree 100% with everything you said. Radio Superman is great, and Radio Jimmy Olsen is cool.
Woo!
Thank you, Singing Banana. And lastly, Hip Hop Happens. On the Batman script from 1982. Yes, going way back to our kind of backdoor pilot into superhero stuff you should know. Where I brought up that Joker's last line to Batman in the shooting script was, "I saved the last dance for you," as he pulls them over the edge and have both of them sort of fall, presumably to their deaths. So Hip Hop Happens says, "I saved the last dance for you" is genius. I can't believe they cut that. Shaking my head. Thank you. Hip Hop Happens.
Thank you, Hip Hop Happens.
That would have been cool, too. All right. On to the fan shoutouts.
Oh, man. We're already here, guys. I can't believe it. Where the fuck is my list? Here we go. All right. So we want to thank some of our newer people who include, let's go with Chris M., Braxton W., Darren F., Billy L., Yusuf A., Kevin R., and Derek O., and Billy L., and we want to thank our other supporters. Thank you guys for everything. If you want to get yourself up on this here board right here, go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod. That's a $1 tier. We'll get you up on this board and a shout out. And then our $5 tier is a whole other show. This show you're watching right now is for free on YouTube or on your podcast listening devices, whether it's Apple, podcast or Spotify or whatever. Mm-hmm. But this $5 show is a whole other show. It's on every Friday. We do deeper dives and talk about topics of the week, of the month, or whatever as well. Going to news, we go into news sometimes, but hell, if you've been watching the show for the past month or so, we've released 2 from the vault, or at least parts of them. So that's a good little preview there. So there's a lot more there. We're at like 132 episodes as of this recording. Mm-hmm. So we've released 3 or 4 from the vault. So there's still quite a lot behind the paywall. So check that out. Yeah. And then we have our $10 tier, which is basically you get the $5 and $1 tier benefits. Plus, it's a monthly meetup tier, so you can join us for a call, and we meet up monthly in a Zoom-like environment, and we have a topic at hand, but also just shoot the shit with listeners. Thank you guys for being a part of our $10 tier, by the way, as well, and everybody $5, $1 tier as well. Mm-hmm. So also we have merch, superhousepod.redbubble.com, superherostuffpod.threadless.com. Hopefully by next year we're gonna have new stuff. I don't want to downplay this shit too much, but I mean our sales haven't been too great on this one. But anyway, Ben Man, Indeed Wizard, Zacula, mugs, shirts, shower curtains, and the rest. Artwork by Stefan Santa Cruz. Zachary Jackson Brown art.com. Zachary Jackson Brown was a co-host, and again, just gonna say it again. His wife had a kid, and he's on an 18-year break from the show. Yep. So there that is. By the time, we have flying cars and shit, he'll be back on the show. So there that is.
Yep.
You'll see him in the backlog if you go there. So yeah. Please send us some audio, anything at all, to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. Thunderwolf Lives on YouTube is my other stuff. And ThunderwolfDrew.com has, all my portfolio in one spot, except for AmanoRecon.com. This poster by Zachary Jackson Brown. That's AmanoRecon.com. We submitted to festivals, everybody. So whenever I submitted to 4, whenever these festivals are done, we're going to finally release this 4-minute thing. And it's going to, that 4-minute thing is the pitch video for a 23-minute thing. What it is an R-rated Power Rangers meets Stranger Things meets X-Files kind of thing. We're going to crowdfund it via Indiegogo.com. And I'm happy with it. It's still coming. I know I've been talking about it forever. I think I announced it too soon, to be honest with you. But here we are. That's it. Ben.
Well, don't forget this.
God,
Gaming Guide.
I need to add this to my notes. Let me add that real quick. Gaming Guiden. Yes, you're right. It's another thing that I'm working on. I feel like everybody's like, his shit never comes out.
I'm helping your self-promotion here.
I know. So Gaming Guiden is a podcast that I did with Mike Torres. He was on the Ranking Superman video games episodes on this podcast. Gaming Guiden is a 10-episode miniseries, season, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we'll probably do it in seasons. They're actually all already recorded. It's just a matter of time. I'll tell you right now, the reason that's being held up right now is because we want to record all of our Patreon next. So that we're kind of have it all ready. So that's kind of the hold up at the moment. We're going to record half to maybe all of it this weekend, hopefully, knock on wood. But what it is a video game podcast, but it's a lot of interviewing Japanese to English translators of video games. So, there's just a lot going on there that you wouldn't expect. And of course, a lot of talk about Japanese culture, some Japanese history, and just kind of think about a deep dive into the job, a closer look at a profession. That's what this 10-part miniseries is. But there's also a couple episodes peppered in throughout where we're going to interview the writers for Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine. That was a gaming magazine I loved as a kid, and it was great meeting those guys for the podcast. So it's coming. It's recorded. Thanks for reminding me, Ben. Gaming Guiden.
No problem. Big thanks to Comic Capital on Instagram, as well as the Everything Entertainment Club on Clubhouse. You can follow us on social media, on Twitter at SuperhousePod, Instagram, Superhero Stuff Pod, TikTok, Superhero Stuff Pod, Vero, Superhero Stuff Pod.
Woo!
My website is benwanwriter.com, where, yes, my shit is actually out, unlike Andrew. So,
this is the episode where Ben dunks on me.
You can read Gotham Vampire.
God damn it.
It's a spec script from Gotham.
Make me feel worse.
Bruce fights the Mad Monk.
Oh, man.
Mine's a little easier to get out, though, to be honest. I can just literally put my script pages out there. That's it.
Just write some shit. Mine takes heart and soul, bro. I got to get a Patreon about video games.
The other is Elementary, The Death of Sherlock Holmes, a modern update on The Adventure of the Dying Detective by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And, of course, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Disneyland. The Curb Your Enthusiasm episode they could never make, where Larry goes to Disneyland.
Hey, people read it. Make comments about this, please.
Thank you.
It's benronwriter.com, right?
Yes, it is.
So fucking go there, read this Curb script. Let us know what you think.
There's got to be some Curb fans out there.
I really want to know what people think about this.
My YouTube channel is in the description below, where you can also check out my project, Doctor Who, The Ronin of Time, The Eighth Doctor Meets Miyamoto Musashi. My personal Instagram is benwanwriter. My son's Instagram, my cat, Alfie, is at Alfie Pennyworth Cat. And if you have an Alfie, you can also get the Whisker Box, the only cat box for the crazy cat lady and gent. And yes, we do have a promo link for this somehow, somewhere. For this, we're not just talking about it. We do have an affiliation with it.
You know what? I need to check in on that.
We may or may not have affiliation with this.
Please,
maybe hold off on this.
We need to get a URL code like we had with Manscaped, man.
Yeah.
That's why you really know you made it in life.
And we know for sure that we do have a URL code for BarkBox, y'all.
Oh, we do have that.
Exactly what they want. First month off free, valued at $35 with our promo link, which you can get at superherostuffpod.com/shop. Get all sorts of shit. The BarkBox link. We might not have Whisper Bidets anymore. We might really need to look into what we have and don't have between now and the next episode. But check out what you can. Our Amazon affiliate links at least should have some stuff.
We kind of have to do a minor to major overhaul of some of this stuff.
We might.
By the way, if you get the BarkBox or WhiskerBox especially, can you tag us with what hashtag superhero stuff pets superheroes? Let's start following that hashtag, Ben. Superhero stuff dog. Yeah, superhero stuff pets. That's how you know it's us. Yeah. So hashtag that, please. And at us on Instagram. I don't know if your cat has a cape or your dog has a cape too, or whatever kind of yeah, especially if you got the BarkBox or WhiskerBox. Take a picture. That way we can really send them. We can it's in our engagement with the audience, but also, tell BarkBox and WhiskerBox we're still with you guys.
Yep. So yes, please visit superherostuffpod.com/shop and take a look at what we got and buy something, please.
Buy some shit. Now, the Amazon links do work. It's kind of a really small kickback for us, but it's something, it's and the eBay
buy
also.
Keaton Batman Funkos, please.
Yeah, please. You have that.
But good $10 out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you buy
oh man.
Right.
We're not pumping those Ezra Miller flashes anymore though. We got to update this picture
is that
as
off?
well.
That's
off. I took that off.
I'll update the picture then.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Let's see. We're updating. Us saying it on the air is a promise that we make to ourselves, everybody.
Also goes to show we definitely care more about what we're saying on the podcast than we do about the merchandise.
That is true. That is true, man.
Yep. We're not in this to make money. We're in this to make fun of ourselves trying to make money.
I mean, yeah, that is true.
Partially, yeah. So, and with that, we're not really Batman '89 themed this week. So
I know. I didn't plan this, but again, before we go, I hope I didn't ruffle too many feathers. Let's continue the conversation without yelling at everybody.
Yeah, let's
please.
Control our anger like Bruce Banner is able to do in the Disney Plus show right now. And if not, then don't make us angry. You wouldn't like us when we're angry.